Hi guys, Bran here with a rant video, a very, very rare rant video. Usually there's a funny little skit that precedes these, but I just have a lot to say, and I'm not happy, but not a lot of people are. So that's not really a surprise. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it because DBD Behavior just released their recent developer update for the upcoming PTB that is already upon us. And there's a lot of extreme game breaking changes coming to the game. Essentially, the TLDR before we get into it is they're adding a lot of anti-tunnel and anti-slug that they've talked about in the health update roadmap, whatever. And a lot of it is not so much anti-slug or anti-tunnel more as it is kind of like trying to very subtly introduce the comeback mechanic that's in 2v8 into DBD into the 4v1 mode, which I'm sure if you've played 2v8, that mode, that kind of a mechanic can be like really frustrating, because you essentially are like slapped on the wrist and constantly punished for playing well on both sides. But usually you let it go because it's like, oh, it's 2v8, it's the party mode. But it's coming to 4v1 in some subtle ways, so yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. First is the slugging reduction update. If a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds during a match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after fully recovering. This comes in tandem with the ability for them to crawl while in the dying state and increase your crawling speed at the same time. And this happens passively without holding a button. Obviously, this creates some issues because some characters are completely geared towards their ability to slug, namely Oni and Twins. You'll see here later as we get into it that they are trying to adjust the game around these changes and adjust characters around these changes. Oni gets a very small change that doesn't really matter too much, and Twins straight up gets nothing. They just go, oh, oops. Oh, oops. And these are just the characters that are designed with slugging in mind. There's plenty of other characters that like slugging wasn't built into the design, but just because of their base kit, they're good at it. They also get absolutely nothing to compensate for this change whatsoever. Getting a little ahead of myself, I will get fully into all of this mess because we still have the anti-tunnel stuff to get into. I think it's just so silly at this point because it's like we already have it to where if like the whole team gets slugged out, then you're in a situation where you can just DC and go next. You can just abandon without any sort of issue and go next. The game doesn't punish you, it's fine. This change also doesn't account at all for the fact that a lot of Swifts will abuse this very much so, because if somebody goes down and it's a whole flashlight or flashbang squad and you just hang out under a pallet, then now you're in a situation where you possibly can't pick up for the next 90 seconds because you know the guy with the flashlight's hanging out nearby, you know the guy with the flashbang's hanging out nearby, especially if there's background player involved in the situation. At that point, you're not maliciously slugging, you're just doing it because you are making the correct play, that hey, I know there are people around going for saves, so I should not pick up right now. But in this case, you just get right back up. You get rewarded for that. So it's going to make those situations that are already extremely frustrating even more frustrating. I think it's funny because down here they say, when it comes to slugging, we know it may be frustrating if the receiving end of it too often or for too long, but sometimes we also know it's the smart move. But there's no changes in here literally at all for that acknowledgement. We know that slugging is sometimes the right play, but we have no compensation for that whatsoever. There's nothing for that. They're like, okay, slugging is sometimes the right thing, but also we're not going to do anything about it. It's like they only acknowledge it in words. And this is where we get into the big doozy, and this is where most of the rant will be, is the tunneling reduction update. When a survivor's hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification, and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. This is disabled once all gens are completed. Unhooked survivors gain the following effects for a limited time: haste, endurance, and elusive, which is essentially a shadow step effect, status effect that they're adding now. No collision with other players. That's going to be good because people can't use their anti-tunnel base kit stuff off hook directly to be aggressive with it. That's good. I like that, but that's probably the only thing I like about this, as you guys will continue to see. Immune to killer instinct, and you get to see the killer's aura nearby. This is going to be the first thing, I'm pretty sure, that actually makes it to where Killer Instinct does nothing. Killer Instinct has kind of always been the big info thing for Killer, that like if a killer has that, then it doesn't matter if you're in your locker, it doesn't matter what's happening, you always get that. Now that's not going to be the case. These effects are lost when the survivors perform a conspicuous action, and all these effects except the haste and endurance are disabled once all gens are completed. This is where we get into the bad part, because that already sounds kind of, you know, there's some positives and negatives, but this is where things get kind of rough. Adding a unique effect to the killer hook state UI that indicates the last survivor they hooked. And after completing a unique hook, the same survivor is not hit consecutively, the killer will get the following benefits: a bonus damage for the next generator kick, temporary haste status effect, temporary reveal survivors like Basket, Barbecue, and Chili for those that have less or equal hook states to the hook survivor. These effects are slightly lessened for the Blight, Dark Lord, Ghoul, Billy, and the Nurse, and these effects are disabled once generators are completed. However, the new effects that are added to de-incentivize tunneling is that if a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. Yes, they're bringing the cutback mechanic to 4v1 if you decide to have somebody down and sacrificed by 6 hooks. Just for reference here, until they clarify otherwise, when you are chasing half the team, so you're just going back and forth between 2 people, that is 5 hooks before somebody is sacrificed. You're not tunneling at all. You're not creating a miserable experience at all. Just going back and forth getting a single hook, never consecutive, between just 2 people is only 5 hooks. So according to just the wording that they have here, you're going to give all the survivors in the trial a boost for the rest of the game while you didn't tunnel literally at all. I don't know why they didn't make this number like 3 or 4. 6 is wild. 6 is now like you have to chase like 3 different people consistently every single game, which if you actually play killer, you know that's often not very feasible. It's just not. Like sometimes half of the team is, I don't know, doing boil over up in a weird part of the map that you can't actually get to them. So you just want to chase the people that are not. Sometimes there's somebody who's running a full like pre-run build with like Sprint Burst Vigil, and the moment they even hear the tear radius, they run like 4 tiles away to shack or to a main building. It's just not viable to chase them. But now you're going to be punished for that. This is even like considering the fact that there are tons and tons and tons of killers in Dead by Daylight where the whole part of their kit is to punish the same person, not even specifically the same person, but the same 1 or 2 people throughout the entire match. Think like Sadako or Trapper. Sadako, if somebody's running around and not really being attentive to their condemned stacks and get condemned, you want to continue to keep adding condemned stats to that person and eventually go after them. That's what you should do. Nope. If it's before 6 hooks, you shouldn't do that. Trapper, much the same situation. If there's somebody who's just not being really attentive about looking down while they're running around throughout the map, then they run into traps, and then you should, prioritize going after them because that's your whole power. Was that before 6 hook states? Was that before his 6 hook states? No. I know you just finally got used out of your power. That's one of the bottom 3 powers in the game, but you shouldn't go for that. You got to think about the hook states, Mr. Trapper. Also, I didn't even get to the second part of this, which is also really crazy. If the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. So now you're reaching into the stuff that I paid for. So all the like the slowdown or blocking perks that I paid for with my money, and you're saying, oh, well, if you don't play the game in the perfect way that we say so, you don't get access to your own perks. Okay, thanks. I think that so many killers in the game of Dead by Daylight that play a B tier or less killer already feel extremely de-incentivized to play those killers. Even with like the changes that have happened recently with like the healing buffs, the vigil meta, like so many players have already felt themselves feeling a big like doubt of like, why am I playing somebody who's just average or lower? Why am I playing a B tier? Why am I playing a C tier? Why am I playing Trapper? Why am I playing Pig? Why am I playing these weaker killers? Why am I doing that? And the game is already, it really does feel like the game is slowly like stiff arming you if you want to not have a terrible time and do playing the top 10 killers fairly consistently. But this almost solidifies it because the killers that are in the top 10 are not really going to be affected by these changes too much, because if you're playing, say, Ghoul, and you happen upon the same guy and you're like, oh wait, I might run into the punishment for tunneling, you could just use your immense map mobility to just whoosh, whoosh, and fly across to the next person. It's not that big of a deal. But if you're, say, Nemesis, who has no map mobility to speak of, and you run into the same guy that you were going after who's already infected, and you want to chase him because you can use your power on him and he's just near you, now the game's like, no, I need you on Azerov's resting place, one of the biggest maps in the game, to go chase that guy on the opposite side of the map, 176 tiles away from you, and go just on a globe-trotting run to go get him. Unless this temporary haste is like crazy, which it doesn't sound like it's going to be, killers with no map mobility are going to suffer so much, which once again kind of funnels you into these guys: the Blight, the Dark Lord, the Ghoul, Hillbilly Nurse. It funnels you into the people that can get across the map fairly easily to actually get to these people that haven't been hooked yet, or hooked less. If you're somebody who does not have a whole lot of map mobility, I don't know what you do here. What if like Deathslinger or some of the 110 killers do this? What does Chucky do? Poor Chucky. Chucky's a 110 melee killer with a dash that has a rather long cooldown. What happens to Chucky on like Shelter Woods if they accidentally run into someone that they've hooked before? But I can't do that. But the only other person is across, once again, another 176 square tile map. You just run your little 110 butt all the way over there and just like lose gens the whole way. Like, this is not realistic. This is a change made by somebody who does not play the game regularly and does not know what it's like to play as these killers. But once again, that's what we're talking about. So just for fun, I pulled up a tentative tier list that Otts was working on fairly recently, talking about like the strength of different killers and where they are on their tier lists. If you were looking at these changes that are coming through, that are going to be de-incentivizing slugging and tunneling, which are some of the few things you can do as some of like the more average or weaker killers in the game of Dead by Daylight. Essentially, if you look at a tier list like this, the place you want to stop playing characters is like right about Springtrap right here. Like right about Springtrap right here is where you want to stop playing basically everybody down below them, because for one reason or another, they may have to sometimes rely on slugging or tunneling to get the job done because they have different issues with this new system. I described Nemesis 4, no map mobility, Deathslinger 110, no map mobility. There's plenty of killers that have powers that are specifically tied to going after the same people, like Sadako, like Trapper. It's just a lot of these killers that are below this area. I think Houndmaster could be up there, but just in this situation, you can't play, but like in terms of the people that are going to get hurt by this, it's from like Springtrap down are going to have issues with this new system, and that's most of the roster. So that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13. So out of our big roster, probably 12 13 killers that you are now encouraged to play over everybody else. If you like any of these guys, you are going to be negatively affected by these changes coming through. I think these changes feel like they were proposed and made specifically in response to like social media uproar and not like people that play and understand the game. Of course, tunneling doesn't feel good, but not to get my killer hat brain on, but so does not having the first 2 gens go super quickly, even though you didn't have that long of a chase. Where's my early game collapse? I don't know. I guess that just doesn't matter. Like if we were really like fully committed to like, we want the game to feel good, we should be making games last longer for both sides. This is entirely one-sided. Like there's some stuff in here like, oh, you get a good generator kick, which once again, you may not, deliver that to the gen that needs it the most, because a lot of those killers have good map mobility. The temporary haste better be crazy or else it's not going to matter too much. Like it also, this is a whole other side, but this feeds into the whole like behavior, like philosophy the last 1 or 2 years, which is we're going to give you a little sprinkling of a tiny little buff that you didn't ask for, a little bit of malicious compliance here, and then just blow up something else you're doing. Like, hey, I'm going to steal your car and drive it off of a bridge, but hey, I got you a bicycle. Like, cool. Thanks. My car is still totaled. Now I still can't make it to work because it's too far away to bike. Thank you. These changes are made by somebody who hears about the things that make the game frustrating and not understanding the reasons that they happen. The reason that people tunnel and slug is because their characters are on the weaker side. They don't have a lot of map mobility, so they have to compensate that somewhere else by throwing them in the basement, slugging, tunneling somebody. They have to make up that difference somehow. Like literally in my match reviews when I'm telling people like when they should camp, tunnel, slug, all that wonderful stuff, I call them your catch-up tools. And you gotta catch up, maybe because you're playing somebody like Ghostface, who's a fairly weak killer that is at the mercy of maps and a jank mechanic around revealing people. Not all of tunneling and slugging is bad and malicious. Sometimes you just gotta, especially if there's a player that is just kind of like running straight into you every single time, just kind of like mindlessly and not paying attention. And now that person's going to have their hand held and walk through that situation instead of having to actually learn. So I don't know. These changes essentially, like the top 10 killers in the game will continue to play the game in a way that they will still win the majority of their games and they will still be almost entirely fine. If you play like a B tier or lower, you are going to feel like your characters got nerfed by a whole tier for like no reason. And it's going to feel really, really bad. And then you're going to see a lot more ghouls, blights, Billies, Nurse, Spirit. You're going to see a lot of those. You're going to see a lot of the already really, really strong characters even more often because they don't get as adversely affected by these things. So it's not going to be very, very fun on the other end for that reason either. There's other stuff in here. Like I said, the elusive stats effect that they're going to get now is like a personal shadow step. Lord's coming back. Neato. Myers is like a dash slop killer now. You can switch between stock mode and pursuer mode, which a lot of people have asked before, like a stealth mode and then a normal mode. But now you have this like weird dash ability. You're essentially like mini Chucky. The slaughtering strike. Oh boy. I don't know what we were thinking with this because it's just like, I don't know, man. Like we are already moving away from like character like type variety in the game of Dead by Daylight. As it is, like essentially everything is kind of like slowly funneling into like a dash kind of power. They tried to do it with the Skull Merchant rework, but people reacted negatively to that, so they went back to the drawing board. So for some reason they decided to once again go back to dash for, oh, this will fix this character, let's just give him a dash again, please, variety, please. Not everything needs a dash. Not everything has to be dash. Oh man. Good news is Clown is having some number adjustments to make the yellow bottles not as frustrating, make the purple bottles more powerful again, so that's cool. Unknown is getting a adjustment that helps where they can look straight up, kind of like Springtrap can. That's pretty cool. Dracula's getting some updates where their Hellfire seems to be getting a little bit more potent with some nerfs to Wolf and Bat form. Ghoul can't do the kidnap tech anymore. Wahoo. And this is the one that I was talking about earlier that's really funny is because we know that Oni is a slugging killer by design, you get more blood orbs when you hook a survivor now, which once again I was talking about earlier is kind of like their almost malicious compliance kind of design they've had the last year or so, which is, hey, we know we're just like absolutely destroying a big aspect of your character, but you can have this little sprinkle, you can have this little tiny something, that way you don't complain too much. And just completely omitted twins, which is probably the biggest slugging killer in the game. Not that this will be enough to make Oni not feel as bad, but at the same time, twins got nothing. Twins got absolutely nothing, so that's cool, that's neat. Once again, it seems like these are changes made by people who don't know why slugging and tunneling happens and just want to just take it out back without any regard to why these things actually occur. We'll have to see about all the perk updates that happen as a result of these changes, but currently just the way this is written, this seems like a major, this is giving me the same vibes that the Infinite Unbreakable and like Finisher Mori system was, where I just don't want any of this. And once again, same thing happened last time where a lot of people were like, maybe you should let it go to the PTP and maybe you should test it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And then I tested it, it was still awful and I still didn't want it. This feels like it's going to be another one of those situations where I'm like, why are we doing this? This seems really bad on paper. And then we go test in the PTB and it's bad in the PTB and hopefully it doesn't make it to live. I don't know why this number is so high. This is one that really just trips me. 6 total hook states. 6 total hook states. That's a high number. That's a high number. 3 or 4, I'd be like, okay, you're hard tunneling one guy out of the game, or you hard tunneled one guy. Then went, no, I guess I'll get one other hook, and you came right back to him, right? I can maybe see that, but 6 total hook states. You can go after 2 people, and you can still be under 6. Like. Oh my gosh. Let's just take B tier killers lower and just wallop them and take their lunch money. Oh my gosh. I don't know, man. And this is on the precipice of like a 2025 that has been like almost nothing but survivor buff after survivor buff after survivor buff. Like healing, crazy. Vigil meta, crazy. The new perks that came out with like Last Stand and Conviction, still really good. It's like, why are we adding even more? Like they're like killer, like survivors are already like in a heyday of having a really good meta, and now we're like, okay, let's nerf the killer side across the board during this. These better be crazy. The numbers behind like the bonus gen kick and the haste better be wild. They better be like machine learning level, or else this is going to be abysmal. This is going to be awful. Absolutely awful. I don't know, man. If I could summarize it, if I could summarize it in anything, it feels like these changes are made by people who don't play the game. And it feels extremely tone deaf to understanding why slugging and tunneling happens. It really does. It just does not feel like people who play the game make these decisions. It looks like they track numbers, they track social media, and they make changes based upon it, and aren't actually like getting the experience of players involved. And I don't know. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't understand. I like the idea of incentivizing not slugging, or incentivizing going after unique hooks. Giving buffs for going for unique hooks, cool idea. But this rigid punishment for it? The reason that people do this is because in a lot of instances they have to. Are there people that are malicious tunnelers every single time they go into a game? Absolutely. But the best way to incentivize people not to tunnel would be to make it to where not tunneling is also really, really good and really, really rewarding, whether that be through blood points, old barbecue and chili, or through having a victory come almost at an equal rate that it would be tunneling someone else. Right now, this is just no. This is being punishment. This is a punishment. This is a punishment. Even though it's not even necessarily something that you did wrong, you are being punished. And so it feels bad. It feels like a punishment because that's basically what it is. It's just a punishment. And that is not the right way to go about it. If you want to make slugging and tunneling not as present in your games, you got to make the alternatives just as good. That's what you got to do. Going, no, and punishing people that's not the way to go. And once again, like I said this in the middle of the video as well, but like, where is my early game collapse? Where is my built-in corrupt intervention? Not that I even necessarily want those things, but just if we're like, oh, well, finishing the game too quick is bad, where's the survivor into that? Because gens have been going super quick in the past, like, a year or so, because healing buffs means people aren't spending as much time as hooks, so they're getting back on gens. They're not spending as much time running across the map because they have vigil to buff all of their exhaustion perks so they can get around the map quicker, so that saves time getting to gens. So gens are going faster, not because of gen perks necessarily. Well, there was that hens build that came out that got really popular, but my point being is that, like, we're already in an era where gens go really, really fast for a multitude of reasons. Where's our game can't go too fast mechanic for that? Oh, that's right. That doesn't matter for some reason. I would love to have much longer games on killer. I would love that, but that's not what this is for. This is just specifically for punishing these playstyles and not improving the health of the game. And I wish they kept that same energy that they treat slugging, camping, and tunneling with for, like, the efficiency on the other side, because it's essentially what it is at the end of the day, right? It's efficiency, right? If somebody pops a gen or two within the first chase, if the first chase isn't too long, that's like the survivor version of tunneling, right? They are doing their objective super efficiently, just the same way that a killer is trying to get somebody out of the game super quickly. That's them doing their objective, which is getting rid of the survivors as soon as possible, way too efficiently, right? So why is there a double standard when it comes to these two things? Why is tunneling mean that you're the devil, and doing the first two gens within the first chase is like, no, that's fine. They're just doing their objective. That's totally okay. And there's never, ever any hullabaloo for that. Any at all. I don't know, man. This feels like we're going back slowly but surely to 2020 and before gaming. Like, and that's, I started in that era of DBD where it's just like survivors just do whatever they want. And they're never punished for it, because back then it was like their perks were too powerful, and their items, to be honest. The perks and items were just so powerful that they could just do whatever they want and get away with it, and that was just how it was. The killers just kind of had to do whatever. They just had to deal with it, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like we're slowly reverting back to early DBD, where survivors could just run around, do whatever the heck they want, no punishment whatsoever, and the killer's just like, well, you just need to play better. While all of this stuff is happening, all of these crazy buffs are on the other side. It's just like, no, you just need to play better. You just need to play more fair, and then you'd actually be a good killer. That's how it feels, and it's so painful. Oh my gosh. Oh man. I guess, like I said, it's like we still have to test in the PTB, but like the the base kit slugging finisher mori thing. I have a good feeling. I already know that this is bad, and I hope it doesn't go live. Hopefully, like I said, these numbers for the buff side of things are really, really good. That's like the only way that this kind of pans out in a way that I think works well, is like if those numbers are really, really good, it might be okay. But then again, what do we do about Trapper, Sadako, characters like that focused on going for the same survivors if they are not playing correctly? I don't know. Yeah, I just had to get this off my chest. I needed to stream. I was going to stream over at twitch.tv/the Mr. Headache. And I was like, I will yell on stream. I will get mad, and I want to get mad. So I just want to put it here, get it out of my system, and then I will go stream when I am done. So, yeah, man, how do you feel about this doozy of a developer update? I know there's probably gonna be a lot of you in the comments down below like, "Ooh, cry killer made blah blah blah." I'm like, okay, whatever. That's not constructive. Please keep it to yourself. I don't care. Nobody cares. It's like that Jurassic Park scene. We got dogs in here. See, nobody cares. Oh, well, cry killer made cried. See, nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. This is the same thing I've been hearing since I've played the game back in early 2020. Like, I've been hearing, well, crying killer maiden for years. Nobody cares. It's old. It's stale. Get a new bit. Yeah, what do you guys think about these changes? Because I'm not looking forward to them. Is there something that I'm missing that like makes this okay? Because I feel like this is terrifying. Also, obviously this is a very fresh post, so there will be updates. So if you guys have those, please let me know down in the comments below. I'll try to keep those updated in the pinned comment. Jeez, man. Gonna be a fun Tuesday. Yeah, I appreciate all of you, and I will see you in the next video. Hopefully this video was at least entertaining, made your day a little bit better. If it didn't, I'll try to do so again in the next video. If I don't see you there, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.